The latest information coming out of the SARS Scan Project of the Giza Plateau has motivated this video, because since Project Unity has released the new information, I thought I'd better revisit one of the videos that I made 3, maybe 4 years ago. And, well, here it is. What is underneath the Sphinx? This episode is about something I've been asked about many times. And because I've really only got bits of it, it's taken me a while to go through the journals and try to find all the references to it. But it's about what I saw under the Sphinx. I have one main dream about it, and others are just bits that you really want to hear about. So the entrance to under the Sphinx is a reasonable distance in front of the Sphinx. I think that the area where the entrance is probably where the Sphinx temple is currently now. Mind you, I could be wrong, because the length and size of the pores has thrown me. It's not the same size that it was that I remember. Those pores stick out a lot longer than they did when I saw them. I will do my best to map out where I think it is. The entrance that I remember wasn't a door or an entranceway into a tunnel or anything like that. It was a large shaft that looked a bit like this picture that I'm putting on the video at the moment. It was sealed using a very, very large stone slab, and it actually sat inside the shaft on the shaft had like a little edge all around it, and it sat inside the shaft like a lid would. So this massive stone slab that acted like a lid on the shaft was really important, because we didn't want to make it very obvious where the entrance was, and that was our best way to ensure that it wasn't going to be just so obvious, come in and take everything kind of obvious. But we were very good at making a place sealed, well sealed. Anyway, the shaft, it descended a long way. I'm going to try and guess, but as I've mentioned, I didn't have any somnambulant tape measures with me, so this is purely a guess. My guess is 15 to 20 stories down, so to me that's a long way. So we would go down the shaft. Remember, we did have the technology where a shaft was really just like a corridor to us, like being in an elevator but without the box around us. At the bottom of this shaft, there is a brief little kind of tunnel, and then a small room. And this room isn't really of much significance. It's just where we would put things that we were moving in or out of the area. So it was just kind of like a little holding place. And this room is actually sealed at one end with some large blocks that we've made to look like a wall. And the reason for this is that if someone were to find the shaft, go down and get into that room, they would think they had found what the shaft was all about. There it was, the room. Nothing in it, but maybe there had been at some stage. People would think, oh, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. But it did go somewhere. One wall was actually not a real wall. It was a large piece of stone made to look like a wall. Anyway, from there, if the artificial stone wall was not there, there was another hallway. and that went into another area, which was a larger room. Once again, that room was sealed at one end, and there were other tunnels coming off from there, which could be very confusing for people who didn't know exactly where they were going. So I'm just going to focus on where I was going. So I kept walking along until I got to a very large opening. It was filled with water, but there was a walkway on both sides of this. Let's say it looks like a large swimming pool. And in the center there is a stone box, and round the outside there is a walkway. And you could actually walk both sides of this big cavern area. It was a squarish cavern, and the walkways were reasonable, safe width, and then there was the water, and then there was the stone box in the center. Now this is quite important because what was there when we set it all up was a machine. If the water level got to a certain point, it would convert the water to a gas, steam I guess you'd call it, and it would go up through an escape vent, which wasn't particularly big, the vent, and it would go up, and we had quite a tall pipe that, of course, all our pipes were made of stone, that went up into the air, and there was a mechanism within it that the gas could get out, but even if the vent was covered with water, the water couldn't get in through that vent. And so, when the water levels rose over a certain point, this was where the water was drained from the tunnels, so it didn't get into the areas which were particularly important to us, and it kept things dry that needed to be kept dry. So we walk around this big cavern, we can walk on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. And the reason it had both sides as walkways was because when the machine was operating, when we were setting it up, we needed access from both sides in order to get it in place and then later to remove it. So there's another hallway from this room at the opposite side, and we walk through that, and we come to other various rooms, and some of them are down a hallway, and they've got niches in them with large stone boxes, and others there's just a niche where it is with the box in it. And we had a variety of different sizes of boxes depending on what it was that we were storing in them. We used hard stone for our boxes, and we did not carve on the boxes. There are no inscriptions from us on the boxes. Anything that you may see on any boxes that are maybe granite boxes or harder, you will not find something from my people. We would, however, occasionally carve an instruction onto a wall where relevant. Our language was no longer written, and so it's kind of hard for me to explain, but any records we left of our history or with scientific information or anything like that was not written in a language that could be translated. We didn't bother taking any of the large stone boxes either. We just left them where they were. Okay, back to the topic of the tunnels. Every now and again we would create a false door, or we would block up a door that we didn't. We just wanted to keep it so that if somebody did get down there, they wouldn't find their way through that easily through the whole thing. And create a few passages which basically went to nowhere. It was our way of just confusing people who actually got into it, if they did get into it. Because we have already taken away all of the stuff that I guess a lot of people would have liked to have got their hands on. So the bits of technology, the information about Tantal, the secrets of medicines and vibrations, and a lot of scientific information was in there. And there was also a lot of stuff to help repopulate a lot of, let's call it seed DNA if we needed it. And yeah, just can't think of what else was in there. As you can see from this pretty awful map that I've tried to draw, the interesting stuff wasn't necessarily directly underneath the Sphinx. Oh, and the angle of the tunnels in no way corresponds to the direction of the dynastic causeway that is in that vicinity. One last thought. Imagine if the archaeologists today found the vents from that large area where the machine used to be. And let's, for argument's sake, say they sent down one of those medical camera things that looks a bit like a snake. I can't remember what they're called. But let's say they sent it right down and in. It went into that area. Then all they would see was a large amount of water, a stone box, just a very, very large cavern. I wonder if they'd even think that it was worth looking at any more than, just looking at it the way they have done. I would imagine they'd think, well, there's no treasure here. There's nothing really exciting. So let's move on. Let's see what else there is around. Unless, of course, the dynastic Egyptians got in there and they put some stuff in there. And that's always a possibility because they were very keen on finding anything to do with the ancients. I will leave you with just the little maps that I've put together. So the areas where I think the entrance is. I know it's a bit of a wide area, but because everything's changed so much, it's really hard to give an exact placement of where the entrance is, and also the map of the tunnels and the main caverns of the area underneath the Sphinx. Anyway, thank you for listening, and hopefully I didn't miss anything exciting or important, and I will catch you all next time.